Hi, my name is Josha, and I'll be showing you how to make a tinder scraper, or I suppose you could use it for bow making too. It's just this. It's a little piece of banding, steel banding that I got from a factory, and this is kind of heavy duty stuff. It's 1.25 inches by about 1/16 of an inch thick. You could also probably order it as just shim, but it's got to be spring tempered. I think it's about 45 Rockwell from what I understand. And the way you make it is you start out with a strip like this, and I just squared the edges off on my little 1x30 belt sander, and then use a stone to flatten it, and I flattened the face of it, as you can tell. And then I also flattened the edges, and for that I used a water stone because it's a little quicker than these oil stones, but for the edge it tends to gouge the water stones because they're softer, and so I got a dish in the middle. So I'm just going to be showing you using these, and I think I'll just use the Arkansas because it's already pretty well done. So I'll just true up the flat a bit. Okay, and it's sort of going to the edge. You can tell by the polish. Maybe lean a little bit on each edge to get it to actually abrade there, because of course it's not going to be perfectly flat, but just as long as those edges are showing up, that's probably fine. And you should really only need to flatten it once, maybe to get rid of a burr you need to do it, but I think generally people just do the edges, just square up the edges, and that's fine. But for demonstration I'll do this too. And since you kind of want to get rid of this paint too, because I figured that would get in the way of your edge. So I have a sheen all along all four edges here, and I can actually make sort of 4 scrapers out of this, with each corner being a scraper, and then I could even do the ends if I wanted to. And how I square it up is I've got just a little piece of aluminum angle, and I just hold the scraper up to it like this and just move the whole thing along the stone. That way I'm sure that my scraper edge is square, which is really important, because if you get and you'll see that the stone likes to get clogged up with the aluminum quite a bit, but as long as I can get the steel down, and I can tell by the sheen that it's gotten down. If you don't get this edges square, then one edge will be acute and one edge will be obtuse, and you can really only get a hook on a 90-degree angle, or probably an acute angle would be fine, but an obtuse angle is probably not going to work. So you might be struggling to try and get a edge on it and not know why, and it's because you're not actually at a right angle. And so you can sort of tell by, you can feel that corner. It's a nice sharp corner, and then I know I can start. I'm probably going to figure out a way to do this in the field with my little sharpening kit that I bring, but right now I can't really figure out how to, hold all that stuff on my lap. Anyway, so that's the basic start of the scraper, is just flattening those edges, and then you basically burnish a hook, and what you're doing is you're creating a burr. And I know in sharpening, we usually want to get rid of the burr, but in this case we're intentionally moving the steel over to form a burr or a hook that we'll then use at an angle to scrape the shavings of the wood off. And I'm not a woodworker. This is actually the first time I've done scrapers, but it's a woodworking thing, and people use it. They're called cabinet scrapers. They use them to finish wood, and it actually produces a really nice smooth surface. So I made the burnisher too, and all it is a piece of M2 steel drill bit blank, which I got from mcmaster-carr, and that's at about 62 Rockwell. You could also use an M42 cobalt if you could afford it. They're kind of expensive. I think it was like 40 bucks for a blank. This blank was, I believe, like 15, so not too bad. Or you could even use carbide if you really wanted to, but I think that would be kind of overkill. And also I sort of see that this could be useful in the field for other things, so I kind of want to keep it a a usable hardness of a tool steel, high-speed steel that's not going to break. I thought of one use for this might be punching out the handle part of a axe that maybe you cut off and you need to drive it out and you can't drive it out with anything else. This would probably work for that. Anyway, what I did was I took a piece of, now this is 3/8 rod, and this is a 3/8 ferro rod blank, and I got just a 5/8 or a 3/8 threaded coupling, stainless steel threaded coupling, and then I drilled out basically the threads in this half section on both of these, and then I epoxied these in, and then I just got another stainless steel, basically it's like a stud, and that allows me to kind of carry these compact in my kit, but then when I need to have some more length and leverage, I screw one of these in and screw the other one to it. So I basically make a handle for both ends. I've got the burnisher on this end and I've got the ferro rod on this end, so it's kind of handy and I've got a lot of grip there. And then I was found that using oil really helps with this, and so I just carry a little bottle of mineral oil with me and basically just put a little bit on, and you don't really need a whole lot. And if I don't use this, it tends to like kind of gall the metal, and I'll get little scratches on this. With this stays. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that I did chuck this into a drill. The flats of the 3/8 inch nut here actually are 1/2 inch wide, and so you can chuck it into a regular 1/2 inch drill chuck. And then I just ran that reverse against my 1x30 belt sander until I got up to, I think, the 15 micron paper, or the 15 micron 3M belts, the micro finishing film. You could probably do with a little less polish, but I think it's nice to have it as polished as you can. So, and basically how you burnish it is you want to first, and I'll just do one edge. Normally I'd do all 4 edges so I could just use them, and once they get dull I'll switch to another one, but for this demonstration I'll just do one. And first you want to burnish the hook up, and so you kind of take it flat and maybe at a slight angle, and the pressure is kind of significant. And I read, when researching how to burnish these, that kind of like the pressure you'd use for buttering a sandwich would be, or a piece of bread, would be about the right pressure. I found that maybe a little more is good for me, and especially you want to listen to it and make sure that it's smooth and not catching on anything. You don't have any nicks in your rod, because that's going to create a little nick in there. And you can also tell by feeling the edge here, and you'll feel that a burr has really risen up and it's much more aggressive than just a 90-degree angle. And then what you want to do is you want to turn the burr down, so you've kind of gotten it up, and now you want to turn it down and over. The trick to this is getting it so that you don't crush it this way. If I had too much of an angle here, it would just roll it over this way and flatten it, and then I would just have a rolled over edge here. And also you don't want to burnish it too far, or else it just curls over on the steel here and you actually can't get any cutting action. The other thing you want to pay attention to is, of course, if you're doing all 4 edges, you want to make sure that you don't destroy the one you just did by going at too shallow of an angle here. So I kind of eye it, and I started about a little bit of an angle just to make sure I'm avoiding this other edge. And then same thing, I just kind of start stroking it and slowly increasing the angle until I feel, and I would say from horizontal it's maybe a 20-degree angle, 15-degree angle, maybe even less. But just experiment with it and kind of figure out what works. And also I'm feeling for that smoothness, and therefore I know I'm not creating any little tears in this burr. And I can also feel it's got a nice aggressive hook now. So you'll really be able to feel that aggressiveness and tell kind of when you're done. So that's pretty much it for burnishing the scraper. And then what I do to scrape tinder, or I guess if you were to do a bow or whatever you want to scrape, How I use this is I just have a piece of, I think it's mulberry here that I just split with my knife, and then I sort of carved off to, make it flat and level. This one had a big twist to it, because the scraper kind of likes a flat surface to start out with. Otherwise it's going to start to chatter, and your chatter is just going to be amplified. You won't get those nice long curls of shaving. So what I do is, because you kind of have to use both hands and apply a fair amount of pressure, I kind of use my knee to just wedge this between my knee and the ground. If you had a longer piece, you could probably put it in your armpit and hold it that way, but however you do it, you can sort of do it with one hand in this, but it's tough. So 2 hands and the scraper, and your thumbs like this, your fingers like this, and apply a fair amount of pressure. At first you're going to want to just start to smooth out the your knife marks, or even it out so that it doesn't start to chatter. Because once it starts to chatter, then it'll amplify it each time. So once I'm confident that it's kind of smoothed it out and I'm not really feeling any super chatter, I can go ahead and increase my speed and pressure a little bit, so I can get some really nice shavings really quick. And experiment with your angle. I may be using, I don't know, 25 degrees, I would say, just to guess. But experiment with your angle and your pressure to see what kind of shavings you get. And it probably varies per wood too. But yeah, as you can see, I'm getting really nice paper thin shavings. You can also bend the scraper to gouge a little bit more. Like if you're making a bow and you want to curve it, you can bend it this way to get more of the edges straight. Or you can bend it like this to get more of the center scrape. So a lot of different things you can do with it. But a fair amount of pressure and a fair amount of speed, you can really get it going. Okay, and now I'm just going to light this with my ferro rod to show you how easy it is. And I'll just use a little section of this because it's in the house here, so. Right. Oops. No, that one went, but let me demonstrate it a little better here. And this stuff does tend to fluff up a lot, so I found that transferring a spark from like a bow drill fire, you maybe want to squish it down a little bit to create a bit of a bird's nest. There you go. And so it's really very easy to light it. It doesn't take much at all, and you can go ahead and hopefully make your scraper and use it to make some instant tinder wherever you are in the woods. And I like it a lot because I always have trouble finding tinder. So, alright, that's it. Thanks.